Hey everyone, today we're going to be making a basic scream synth inside of Logic Pro with no third-party plugins. Today we referenced a track from TNT's OMG, but we're going to go ahead and break it down individual parts. We're going to go in through the synth, we're going to go through the plugins, then we're going to go through the effects, and then also the sidechain. So now that we're in Alchemy, let's go to Oscillator A. And as you can see here, I didn't really do a lot, but we're going to start with the unison here. I went to the unison and I brought it up all the way, adding 16 voices, and turned the detune practically all the way up. You can go up all the way, you can actually get tasteful. This is where you can put your creativeness into it. But to get the pitch envelope, we need to add a modulation to it. By right-clicking on the knob, you can add modulation. In this scenario, I used ADSR2. Once you select the modulation, it'll pop up down here, and this is where you can control the depth. Now I have it going 17 steps up. You can play around with this all you want. Then by left clicking, we can copy this source and bring it into Oscillator B, which as you can see has the exact same settings. So now we have two oscillators doing the same thing. Now the only difference I did on the modulation, which I really enjoy in Alchemy, is the fact is you can change parameters per knob. In Oscillator A, if we click here on the semitones, you can see that I'm going up 20 steps. But in Oscillator B, if we click on the semitones, you can see that I'm only going up 17, which gives this more of a dissonant sound, which is good in these screams. You want kind of more flair. Then all of this is going to a basic low pass filter. I went ahead and rolled some of the top end off because it's very noisy, especially when you add a lot of distortion. So you kind of want to pull some of the stuff out so when you distort harder, you don't get the white noise crispiness up on top. Added a little bit of resonance and drive all the way up. I turned the volume down here because I was distorting, and then I added just some distortion on the Alchemy side, which gave it that really nice sound. Now let's add some plugins. Drove it pretty hard and then went down a little bit. After the distortion, I like adding an EQ, where as you can see, I took quite a bit of low end out and I boosted right here 8 dB with taming some of the high end again. Then adding a phaser with the mix all the way up, the mix on the LFO section 50/50 so it doesn't actually activate. Ceiling and floor set to these parameters, and this stage with a little bit of warm drive. Let's hear how that sounds. Here, I went and did some corrective EQing. Still too much low, because the more you distort, the more low end you get. Let's add some reverb. And then I just used a preset here, changed some of the pre-delay, some of the size and the wet, and I got this. And then stereo delay. Nothing exciting. I changed these parameters here and definitely this parameters here. And together we got this. Now there's only one problem to that, and it kind of just hits it really quickly. And this is where I think side chaining reverbs and delay is very important, especially when it comes to sounds that are supposed to be very forward in mixes. Go ahead and side chained to that actual sound. And I did it on the delay as well. Let's hear the difference. This is with the sidechain. This is without the sidechain. After that, I went ahead and I bust these all together. So I have my main sound along with my reverb and my delay. The first thing I did was I wanted this to kind of all be kind of caked together, so I gave it an overdrive this time, not a distortion. Gave me some of that volume back, also gave me some more of that grit, more corrective EQing here. Then, to get that sound to actually really punch through, I added this compressor. A suggestion that someone gave me one time, and it really kind of stuck with me, is when you're using a compressor, you shouldn't really be using a compressor to make a volume difference. You should not hear an audible difference in volume when using a compressor. You should just be able to hear it kind of come to life. And this is with it off. Technically, there's no difference in volume. It's just a sound that kind of feels like it's more alive. For the last part of this tutorial, I know that a lot of people have the accessibility to volume envelopers or LFO tool or something along those lines, but this is how I used to do sidechain back in the day, before all of those programs exist, like 2010. I would have to use a hi-hat, and we would take the output out of this hi-hat to duck when our kick drums would hit. In this compressor, I'm listening to that hi-hat, which would dip just a little bit when it came to the kick drum. With the final product in a kick drum, you get this.